Some deliverances come in ways that defy any explanation. For Eleanor, what happened that night on the farm was more than just a strange event. It was a clear sign of divine intervention. If you have ever experienced something where you felt the presence of a greater force protecting you, share it in the comments and subscribe. Stories like these are not just meant to scare us, but to remind us that in the silence of the night, there can also be light. Eleanor's farm in rural Kansas was a place of hard but harmonious routine. Located just below a small cornfield, it was the peak of the harvest season. That day, Jack, her husband, and other family members had worked on neighboring properties and returned with the combine harvester, parking the equipment in the backyard to continue early the next morning. Shortly after 3 in the morning, the rural silence was broken by an unmistakable sound: heavy footsteps around the house, like the hooves of cattle or horses circulating slowly. Jack, annoyed, could only think of the damage the neighbor's cattle could cause if they invaded the crop. He quickly dressed to check and, upon going outside, saw in the full moonlight a robust black cattle that he did not recognize as belonging to any neighbor. The animal, calm, allowed itself to be led to the pasture, where Jack closed the gate on it and all the others that seemed to have appeared with it. With the situation seemingly under control, the couple went back to bed. The next day started early. Jack was busy with the morning milking for coffee, while Eleanor took care of the kitchen chores. Upon opening the door that led to the backyard, her scream cut through the morning. Before her was a huge rattlesnake, motionless, with its eyes open and glazed, staring at the doorstep. Beside it, a detail that left her even more in shock: the snake's abdomen was ripped open, as if something from inside had burst out. Nearby were fresh cattle droppings. The animal that had circled the house during the night seemed to have been responsible for the serpent's death. Jack quickly moved the rattlesnake's body away, using a stick to hang it on a distant fence. The children, fortunately, did not witness the scene. Curious, they went to the pasture to see the black oxen that had appeared the night before, but there was no sign of any animal, no tracks, footprints, or traces. When they asked around, no neighbor knew of herds with those characteristics: black, robust cattle, completely unknown in the region. For Eleanor, there was no doubt that cattle was an apparition. It was not flesh and blood in the common sense, but an intervention that came at the right time. For her, God had sent protection, which fulfilled its purpose and disappeared without leaving any physical evidence other than the dead snake. The couple spent the following days with a mixture of gratitude and reflection. They knew the dangers of rattlesnakes in the countryside, especially with small children around. The idea that the snake could have entered the backyard or even the house during the morning chilled their blood. Thinking that a ghost cattle had roamed the grounds just hours before they found the dead snake reinforced their faith that it was no coincidence. Although some acquaintances laughed at the story or tried to explain it with logic, Eleanor was never shaken. Whenever she remembers that day, the emotion is accompanied by an absolute certainty. What happened on the farm was a deliverance granted by God. Today, more than a decade later, she still recalls the scene with vivid details: the moonlight illuminating the unknown cattle, the sound of hooves, the rattlesnake with its belly ripped open. For her, these are fragments of a narrative of faith, mystery, and protection, which strengthens her in difficulties. And in the silence of the rural night, when the wind passes through the cornfield and seems to bring distant sounds of hooves echoing across the land, Eleanor smiles. There are stories that only make sense to those who lived them, and that early morning in Kansas is one of them. If you have ever gone through a moment where you felt, against all logic, that something or someone was watching over you, perhaps you will understand the serenity with which Eleanor speaks of the episode. For her, the cattle were never a threat, but a guardian, and the rattlesnake, a symbol of invisible danger, only reinforces her gratitude for the deliverance. Life in the countryside is made of work, risks, and sometimes silent miracles. And among cornfield trails and full moon nights, no one in Willow Creek forgets that once a mysterious herd appeared to save a family and vanished without saying goodbye. Stories like these are passed down through generations, gaining strength in family gatherings and reinforcing the notion that there is something beyond what we see. Eleanor knows that certain truths do not need proof to be real. The dead rattlesnake and the traceless footprints are enough. And to those who listen, the warning remains. Sometimes protection comes in the form we least expect, even in the silent walk of black cattle under the moonlight. For those who lived it, it remains an experience that mixes the supernatural with the sacred. The memory is vivid, and so is the gratitude. And every time conversations return to that early morning, there is a silent respect in the air, as if everyone is in the presence of something that cannot be explained. If this story made you think of a time when the improbable protected you, share it in the comments and subscribe to hear more accounts like this. Sometimes divine protection arrives without fanfare, but at the exact right time.